Welcome to another episode of Talk Everything Education, looking at the impact of COVID-19 on the health and wellness of educators and students. As an educator, I do feel that we are on a mental health time bomb, both educators and students. Anything, it's like anything touch them, they're ready to go off because educators, a lot of educators do not know how to deal with their own mental health. And if you're not able to deal with your own mental health, therefore there'll be challenges for you to deal with students' mental health. However, as we know, educators are the first port of call when it comes to students, anything students has to deal with. They'll be going to the educators first. So I do feel that educators need to be equipped to deal with the mental health of themselves and students. Hence the reason for this platform, where we discuss what educators are going through and what are the tips and strategies and tools that we could encourage educators to use to enable them to navigate the online platform or the physical classroom during this time, because it is challenging. Yes, I know it's challenging for everybody, but it's also even more challenging for educators because they have the hands, the minds of young people in their hands. And a lot of time that it's like twofold. They have to deal with the students, they have to deal with themselves, they have to deal with the parents, they also have to deal with the administrators and the principal. So they have all that to deal with. And don't forget their own private life. Yes, as educators, we do have a private life, even though some people don't seem to think so. We are human beings first, and we are educators after. Okay, welcome everybody onto the panel. These are my guests from around the world. As everybody know, most people on my platform are international. So I have an international platform because what I'm also saying is wherever you are in the world as educators, you are going through this same challenge, because that of being a parent and neglecting your children and taking care of other people's children more than you're taking care of your child. We've all gone through that, and we've all gone through the guilt factor to that as well. So thank you very much for coming onto the panel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I am very grateful for you all accepting the offer to come online to discuss the challenges that educators face and how we could actually help them to take care of themselves through self-care and self-love. Only when you are able to do that, you're then able to look after other people. If you cannot look after yourself, there is no way you can effectively look after someone else, because you are so stressed that you are projecting that onto someone else. Anyway, Debbie, I've said enough. Let me welcome my panel members. And okay, can you please introduce yourself? Say what country you come from and say what you do. Thank you. Nobody's going to go.
Okay, I'll go first. No, I'll go first. So my name's Alicia. I'm from the UK. Got a psychology background. Been an educator for over 14 years. I'm now a homeschooler and a director of my own company.
Thank you, Alicia. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I am Michelle Holmes. I am a fourth grade teacher in the United States. Fourth grade is 8-year-olds, 8 and 9-year-olds. I teach at the University of Chicago Laboratory Schools, and I've been teaching for 17 years. And I have a pretty progressive education background.
Thank you, Michelle.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Abhinay Bakshi, and I belong to India. I am the Chief Executive Officer for the company called Nerve and Mind, which is a mental health company, as well as I'm also an online educator for civil services examinations in India. And I'm very pleased to be a part of this platform. So good evening and hi to all.
Thank you very much. Okay, the question I ask everybody, and I keep on asking myself is, we are going through a real challenging time. And the question is, do we think the education institutions are able to deal with the increased mental health of educators and students? Well, as an educator and as a psychologist and a wellness practitioner myself, my answer is no. I'm seeing it every day in the
Yeah, I
classroom.
agree.
And
I
one of the
agree.
things is we also need to realize that behavior, when a child or an educator behave in a certain way, it is not just the behavior, it is loaded. So when the student in your classroom are constantly talking or they constantly want to use that phone, it is not because they're disrespectful, even though you might be telling them 6 times and they're still back on the phone. It's because there's so many things happening, because we don't know what they're coming to school with. A lot of them come into school with baggages, lots of baggages, because they might have had someone in the family that have passed away. And even when we were teaching them online, one of the challenges we realized that we took it for granted that because we're online, they might have a device. No, some of them might have one device with 3 or 4 other siblings. And that is also causing them stress and anxiety. So how can we support the educators who would then be able to support their students? What can we do? And what are the stress factors educators are facing? And how can we empower educators in terms of stress management and etc. and looking after themselves? The list go on, because I also see this process as a traumatic setup situation where students are going through trauma and they don't know how to deal with it. And it is also a grieving process, which we all don't know how to deal with it, because how do we deal with grief? Everybody deal with grief very differently. And when you look at the process, how some of the students have said how they go through the process, you are looking at it, oh my goodness, is anger because they were not able to go out, frustration. Those are all very similar stages in the grief process. So, my panel, educators, what are your challenges? What are your stress? And how are you dealing with it? And how are you dealing with your students?
Wow, that is like a loaded question that we could be on
Yeah.
camera for hours.
I know,
Um, I think for the kids, listen, anger is not really an emotion, right? It's a reaction.
Yes.
It's a reaction to fear. It's a reaction to sadness. It's a reaction to trauma, right? So the question becomes, how do we create space in our classrooms so that students can process what they're feeling? In my 4th grade classroom, every morning we do a different kind of check-in, right? Where the kids get time to just write in a journal. They can draw, they can write, they can, scratch up the paper, whatever they want to do. They're all virtual, so I don't see them, right? They're all in their homes. But we spend time checking in with our bodies. What's hurting right now? What do I feel right now? And I am very lucky to have an assistant teacher, and we're on Zoom. So we have what's called a help room, and it's a breakout room that we create, that one of us will always man. And if a kid ever wants private time with you, they go to the help room and they talk with you in that breakout space. But what I've been told from my parents is just that small check-in, the ability to say, hey, friends, today I'm having a really hard day. How's your day? It's really important for 8-year-olds. They don't have a place to talk. They don't have a place to express. So building in that time into our day to really share what's going on in your life. How does it feel? What that means in the long term is that my class teaching time is cut down. But I have to make a choice. Do I value my children's mental health, or do I value their ability to know 12 times 13 by the end of 4th grade, right? They'll get 12 times 13. I'm sure and positive that they will learn that. But what they'll lose in the process is themselves. And I don't want that to happen. So I've put my students' mental health first every single day, in that way.
That's powerful. And I so agree with that. I so agree with that. And the sad thing about it is some parents are not fully aware of the importance of the mental health of their children. I constantly say on this platform, I would rather have an intellectual behind child than a mentally broken child. Because when a child is mentally broken, it is so much more difficult to fix that child. Whereas if a child is intellectually behind, they could catch up because we are going to do intervention. We cannot do intervention for mental health. And
Right.
I cannot stress enough that parents need to start looking at the mental health and well-being of the child instead of looking at the academic ability and what they should have done academically.
And that's the real problem, which I'm sorry if I cut.
No, that's fine. Karen, Karen, Karen.
Yeah. So that's the real problem, which we see, that parents themselves don't see it as a problem at all here, at least here in India. Because as you know, that we are struggling in many other things. So mental health is the least important thing for many people. And as far as the teachers are concerned, almost 60% of the teachers don't know technology here. They have been schooling children in the schools, and they know the orthodox way. Plus, the children who had the potential, or the ability to showcase their real talents in front of the teachers, or maybe in the environment they used to get in the school. Here, of course, COVID has stopped everything, and here we haven't started school yet. So the children are still at their homes, getting homeschooled through internet or online education, where the teachers themselves are not very comfortable in imparting what they want to teach. And they are also conducting examinations. That's the most funny part, that the schooling system is encouraging examinations. They ask the cameras to be on, and they ask the child to sit with a paper and pencil and write down, and ask the parents to click the photo and send it. And that's how they are evaluating. I don't know how long this challenge is going to go. But the serious lacking in the part is that instead of focusing on the mental health of a child, that what is going on, the real things inside somebody's brain, they are focusing on the numbers, on the marks, and what is being held back because of this time. So I believe the most important is the awareness part. I'm sure even the same is in the other countries, but it's pretty much here that awareness is absolutely uh, neglected, and focused towards going to the next grade, probably sitting for the exam. Things like those are more as a priority for the parents as well as the system. So I feel sorry for the teachers as well as the students, and the parents, of course.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's,
Okay.
I was thinking earlier, like, I know there's a song, but I can't remember it. I need to find it, because what I just feel is that parents just don't understand. And it links back to what you said on Friday, Debbie. That I'm very lucky that I've got the tools with my psychology background, my teaching background. I have literally loved every moment since March. Okay, I've had a few down days, but I realized where I was going wrong and I fixed it. And one strategy that I mentioned before, I can't remember what show I was on of yours, but my daughter has a worry box. So that's something that she can just confidentially put in any worries that she might have during the week. It could be, say, maybe I was too hard on her with the teaching method, or maybe she didn't get how I explained something. And then at the end of the day, we go through it together. And I don't take offense. I treat it like how I would if I was using it in the classroom. I look at it and I think, okay, great. How can I improve? Where did I go wrong? And why did she feel so upset? And for me, that's been so beneficial. And then also, what I also say links back to what you said earlier as well, Debbie, that I need to make sure that I'm okay. Because as I've got so many hats on now that I'm homeschooling, I've got my business hat on, mummy hat on, teacher hat on. I need to make sure that I'm okay. So I use this every day. And we both have a self-love journal, and we have our gratitude affirmations, we have our morning affirmations, so that we just get our mind right and ready. But I just feel that a lot of parents, it's that lack of understanding. And this is where we can come in. I think they just need coaching. A lot of
Yeah.
parents they don't understand. And I think they do need the support, because they don't realize that as much as they're stressed, what if you're so stressed? What about your children? How do you think they feel? Okay, you're fed up of being at home, stuck with your husband or your partner. Well, what about your child? How do you think they felt for 6 months? Having you as their teacher, their mum, their friend, their only friend. Like in case of my child, she's the only child. So she didn't have any company. She just had me and her teddies. And that's not the same.
Well,
So
and,
I just think it's great that
well, I was
so
going to say,
hopefully
Alicia,
we can have some strategies.
I think you hit it on the head, right? Like parents are going
Yes.
through stress too. And I think as a society, as a world community, COVID has has pulled the cover back on our lack of awareness of mental health.
Yeah.
But it's also exacerbated all of the traumas people were feeling before. You have parents losing their jobs. You have parents who are having to shift what they did from in-person to remote, which is a trauma in of itself. You have parents dealing with all of these things and now having to deal with their children at home who they may not have seen at home for 8 hours a day. Like there's some families, like really and truly didn't know each other before COVID. Right? Their kids were in school all day. They were at work. They came home. They ate dinner. They went to whatever extracurricular activity they might have had, whatever thing the parent had going on. And then everybody went to sleep. You have families who honestly didn't know each other before COVID. And now they're needing to learn what that feels like to be in a home 24/7 around one another. You know, to Alicia's point about the journal, like I send my parents newsletters every Friday. And every Friday I do it. Here's what we did during the class all week. But how are you as a parent? What can we do to support you? And I'll hold like twice a month parent nights where only the parents and I will Zoom together. Or I'll give them a list. Here's a journal prompt. Here's some music you can listen to. Here's a great podcast. Something to help parents manage that, because I'm a parent. I think everybody on the screen is works and as a parent, right? So helping make sure that the parents are okay then trickles down to the kids. I tell my parents all the time, you can be super smart and be depressed, but a kid who has good confidence, I can teach them anything. They may not get it perfectly, but a kid with good confidence, good self-esteem, I can get them to go anywhere with me. And I would rather, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Just to add to what Michelle is saying, that there are two things, right? In psychology, IQ and EQ. So IQ, is the measurement of intelligence, while EQ is your emotional quotient. The problem is that IQ, if the EQ goes down, so it enslaves the high IQs. So IQ is of no point if there's the EQ is down. So I pretty much agree to what Michelle is saying here, that if we can have a high confidence, you can teach anything to a child. So that's what's more important. Absolutely. Yes.
The sad thing is we need to empower parents, empower educators. But the other sad thing about all of that is the parents are on the attack with the educators because they're failing to see that the mental well-being of the child is the most important factor, because they have been so programmed in thinking that the academic ability of that child is more important. They're failing to realize that once the mental health of your child is sorted, you will be able to teach the child anything. So therefore, one of the first things as educators we need to do in our classroom is ensure that your students are connected and they're grounded. Yes, I understand it would be taking 15, yes, the maximum is 10 minutes away from your teaching, but that's okay, because you know what? You might be teaching them for that 10 minutes, but nothing is going in their head because they're so preoccupied with the anxiety and the stress and the emotional baggage that 10 minutes you're teaching is a waste of time. Whereas if you take that 10 minutes to check in with them, the 10 minutes to relax, to dance, to listen to, to classical music, to stretch, to go out in the fresh air and come back. That 10 minutes lost would not even be lost because it has been gained, because that student is then much more balanced and ready to run. and their mental health and their emotion are much more intact. That's something I do feel that we need to try to get it to the education establishment. And people like us educators who are radical educators or who do not follow the grain, it does help. Because I keep on saying to people, I'm not a conventional teacher. When I walk into my classroom, there is music, there is positive quotes on the board. I have a little basket that the students take a positive quote out of, and all of that. We talk about, what's happening, how you feel, how was yesterday, what the issues are. And then after that, we start to teach. Because there's no point in me teaching students who come into the classroom, run into the classroom, all bothered and hustle, and nothing is going in because their mind is somewhere else. So,
Well, and Debbie, think about all of the things that the kids have done with you in those 10 minutes, right? They may have taken a quote, but they're practicing their reading skills. If you have them journaling and you're practicing, how do I write a sentence when I journal? What does that sentence look like? What are the parts of a sentence?
yeah,
And you start to weave in all these different ways, the
Yeah.
different things you actually want them to learn,
yeah,
right? And now you're turning the SEL, the social emotional learning, into part of your everyday practice, right?
yeah,
So that
yeah,
kids that are journaling every day, studies show that kids who journal every day are better writers. Why? Because they're practicing writing every day. They're
yes,
practicing,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think that's a big part of making it. I think sometimes educators especially feel burdened by like, oh my gosh, 10 more minutes that I have to lose. This other thing you want me to teach, instead of thinking this is just another modality to teach the thing I need to teach. It's
Mhm.
that's all it is. It's like showing people how to incorporate those things, right? So I play this game with my kids. It's called the scavenger hunt poem. And it's on Zoom. And they have to, it's a scavenger hunt. So I'll go find something red, and they'll get it and they'll put it on they have to put it in front of them. And I go, okay, go find something soft, and they'll go find something soft. And now they're not only on camera, they're running around their house or their apartment or wherever. And then when they're all done, if we're learning about a haiku, they write a haiku based on the items in front of them. If we're writing a couplet, a poem with couplets, and so you're trying to find ways to pull in all of these different things so they don't feel like school is this computer that I look at and, oh, I want to go talk to my friend and I want to, so you have to find the different ways to do those things.
Yeah, yeah, it is so very true. And you see, as educators, we are so programmed and we think that things have to be taught 1, 2, 3. We are failing to realize that everything we do is education. We walk down the street is an education lesson. Depends on how you want to look at it, right? There's so many things. That's what, in terms of innovative educators and educators, people who are homeschooling, they can no longer just teach from the national curriculum. There are other ways of teaching, of doing maths, like cooking with your child, you're doing maths. So those are some of the things that I was saying to parents when they actually had to support the child learning. It is not about just reading the book. It's about discussing. It's about, as you say, Michelle, journal writing. Is the English lesson you're doing, you're journal writing, you're checking your spelling, you're checking your punctuation, you're checking your sentences, you're cooking, you're doing maths, you're doing English, you're doing science. So it's looking at innovative ways of teaching and learning, which would enable relaxation as well.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes some of it's even like, we have fidget tools, right? So when they I'm somebody who fidgets all the time, so I'm masking tape as we're talking. But it's teaching the kids, okay, that's a thing. If it's not distracting you, but it's keeping your mind tuned into where you are, let's do that. So that like making slime or putty is a science lesson on polymers.
Yeah.
But then they have this slime or putty to play with.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was a small thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter, she loves slime. Like, she's obsessed with slime. So we do that. Like, she's found different ways to make slime, and she's made slime since August, and it's kept really good. I don't know what she did, but that slime that she made in August, she uses it when we have like our brain breaks, and she uses it to fiddle with. And I found that her learning has just come on leaps and bounds. Like, in that short space of time that I've been homeschooling her, we've covered so much. And I know that she's way ahead of her peers. Like, I know that I don't need anyone to tell me. As much as I've had people come to say, oh, she's behind, I'm like, no, she's not. You're just saying that because you know that I single-handedly have achieved what the teachers should have been achieving, but they haven't. You failed my child because you thought, oh, her mum's educated, so her mum should do it. No, you were her teachers for 5 years. Why did my daughter not know these key concepts? And why did no one ever say to me, oh, why did no one ever stop me and say, apart from, we had like, I think it was 3 parents evenings her school used to do, and then never did newsletters. They did something else, but why did no one ever stop me and say, your daughter doesn't know this, she doesn't know that? Like, was that not their job? I was a bit confused. They had a duty of care to let me know that my daughter would, because apparently when I read her report, they said she couldn't do X, Y, Z. And I was thinking, that's really strange because technically I wouldn't have given out reports myself because COVID happened. So why on earth did you judge my child on you having her for 6 months? Like, you basically, I don't think reports should have been written, but they were. And my daughter's report was a joke. It was an absolute joke. I was like, this is why I'm so secure in continuing homeschooling, and we are not going back to the classroom. And we didn't because it was a joke. A report was an absolute joke.
Well, and that's the thing, right? What are you when you look at something like reports, what are you actually judging these kids on? Because if you've only seen them on the camera, you have no idea if their parent is able to hire a tutor and get the tutor to do it. You have no idea if the child went on YouTube and looked at the video and just copied the video. You can't, but what you can judge, hey, this kid comes on my camera every day. This kid is putting in the effort every day. That's the best that you can do right now, you know? And to go back to the slime for a second, Alicia, I turned it into an entire unit. This little small thing that was like for the kids' mental health to make this slime putty to play with turned into a math lesson. How do I build a slime business? What's your profit margin going to be? How much, what are the materials you need? How can you multiply it and make more? To a writing lesson, hey, write the directions for another kid, right? So it's learning to think outside that box of.
Thank you,
This
Michelle.
is the
You
book.
just given me some ideas. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah,
See?
that's so very true. You see, that's what some of the reasons why educators are so stressed. They are not thinking outside of the box. They still feel that what is in the physical classroom, they need to bring it online. But online teaching is so very different. Or they're also thinking, okay, I need to cover every single thing. No, you don't need to cover every single thing.
Oh.
And that's where the issues are. Because when you are stressing out and think that I need to teach X, Y, Z, I need to teach everything, etc., failing to look at the mental well-being of yourself and the students, that's the problem. Because they're not thinking outside the box. They feel that I need to do all of that. No, you don't. That's the problem.
The problem is that the timelines to finish the syllabus, we have to bombard with the information. And when you start bombarding, you have to cover everything, whatever is in your target is. And that's the biggest challenge, that how can we reduce the target? Because obviously we have to focus on the mental health first. And if we can penetrate into the minds of the learners, like as I'm not teaching young kids, I teach the elder ones, plus the patients which I see in my center. They are those who who face all sorts of challenges. It's not just petty things, but they also have to look at their financial issues and family issues. Somebody who's not going out, they already are in a position to get into quarrels among themselves. So you can understand that what are those things they have to go through. And now you're bombarding with the syllabus or all the curriculum which you need to finish. So here, I believe the biggest support which somebody can give is the administration and the system. That don't put pressure on a child. Or maybe if the parents are, if we can speak to the parents simultaneously and make them understand that don't rush your child, don't rush them. Because I believe if the parents are in the sync, then I don't believe even a loss of a year would affect that much than harassing a child with so much of information and making it a permanent injury. So I think we can skip that 1 year and make the child or a learner more comfortable rather than trying to finish things on time and then, ending up with a permanent damage.
Yeah, mental
So
health
I
issue.
think, yes.
Mm, that is so true. What tips can we give educators? And right now, it seems like we have parents we have also parents here. What tips could we give
Yes.
educators, parents, so that they could support the children to prevent them from having such, you know, I'm not even too sure I could say high, prevent them from going down the road of mental health.
Now, as an owner of a mental health clinic or a center, basically an enterprise, the first thing and the most important thing I would say, if you're staying at home, I'm talking for the parents,
Mhm.
be as much engaged with the child as much possible. If you can play chess, play chess. If you can, play a business game, play a business game. But don't only, penalize your child with just to go and study or just do something on themselves. Here, the most important thing a child is missing is the company of his friends.
Mhm.
And if you can't be his friend, you are taking away something so big from that child's life. So at least fill those little gaps which has been created in that child's life. And I think the best teacher here, the best friend here can only be a parent. And that's what the parent have to do, that you cannot skip that part, I believe. So you'll have to get engaged with the child, become their friends, kneel down a bit, take a step back, and hug your child and just play games,
Mm.
just play something, do something, create something. As you said, Debbie said that, cook with your child, even that's
Mhm.
learning, right? So it's learning and it's fun too. So you're creating that such a beautiful bond between a child and its parents, and I'm sure that's the best way to take your child out of this trauma. So I think
That
that's the
is,
only solution which I believe right now. Of course, there are hundreds of other steps, but I think this is the most important.
yeah,
And
right.
just the creating memories with your
Yeah,
kid, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
So
you're sitting
beautiful.
there, your child, our children will sit back in 20 years and go, yeah, this COVID thing happened, but you know what? Mama taught me how to make this. Papa taught me how to make this. Or remember when we tried to throw the pizza dough and it hit the ceiling? Like, it sounds silly. It's a small moment, but it's like those small moments make our lives. And I'm so sorry to do this, but I have to leave. Alicia, Abina, and Debbie, thank you so
Vinay,
much for inviting me. I
yes.
appreciate it. But you guys have a wonderful day, and reach out in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Please,
Pleasure
Bye.
talking to you.
bye.
Thank you so
Okay,
much. Have a great day.
right. Okay, what three tips could we give to educators, you know, and in turn to help them to support themselves and support teachers, to support the children?
I think definitely do what you said, Debbie, about creating that that classroom environment. So, um, what we do here, like, what I do is the mindfulness. I never used to understand the benefit of that because I like doing it, but I now get why it's beneficial for children even as young as nursery. So I was advised to do it before when I used to work in schools, but I didn't understand how nursery kids would benefit from that. But from doing it myself and then seeing the benefits that my daughter gained from just getting her mind right,
Mhm.
and then the work that we produced afterwards, I was like, so I would definitely recommend, like what you said, about getting that classroom environment prepared, like have the music on, have,
Mhm.
like, we like are listening to meditation music, so when we hear the beach and those sort of shells, those sort of sounds, so have that playing. Just, even though you are at home, still create that what would be that classroom environment for them. And
Mhm.
I agree with sorry, I
Michelle.
can't remember his name,
Oh,
that yeah,
Abhi,
also,
Abinaya.
you can
yeah,
call me
yeah.
Abby. You can call
Abby.
me
Oh, thank you,
Abby.
Amy. I think it's good that you should just have fun with your child as well. Like, if you notice that they've woke up and they're not feeling in the mood for the academic work today, don't
Yes.
put pressure on them. Just
Mhm.
go and do, like you said, cooking. There's Play a game with them. There's so many skills you can get out of playing Monopoly.
Mhm.
Um, Playing even a simple Snap, even a card game. There's even playing chess. There's so many skills that you can gain from doing that. And another thing that would is a nice idea at the moment is like Christmas time festivities. you can watch a Christmas movie and then you can still do academic, because afterwards you can get your child to think of their own movie. They can write a review of the film. There's always, I'm a big believer in there's always learning opportunities everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. I don't believe that learning just has to be from a textbook, because I was taught mostly from a textbook, being from the Caribbean, like the standards are very, very high. But there's other ways that when I came to this country, a lot of creative teaching, so plasticine, clay, again, that interactive learning I enjoyed. It wasn't, textbooks great, but there's other methods as well.
Yeah. So it's a matter of educators looking outside of the box. And yes, I do feel in order to reduce the stress level of educators, they need to take care of themselves. Self-care is vital, because you cannot take care of everybody else without taking care of yourself. So
Absolutely.
whether or not for you, self-care might be just finding the space and just spending 5 to 10 minutes just in space with yourself, whereby you just have the 5 or 10 minutes where it is just you and you. Just relax for that 5 or 10 minutes, or just do meditation for 3 to 5 minutes meditation, which will actually get you to be centered again. Those are just little things that would make such a great difference in terms of your stress level and your anxiety level in relationship to how you then go back into that classroom to deal with your students. And there's sometimes you could even say to your students, okay, which I say to my students all the time, okay, let's just do some meditation, because especially if I feel that I'm becoming overwhelmed because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, there's so much to do. I have to pull back and say, okay, let's just do some meditation. And it would be 3 to 5 minutes meditation, not more than that. And when it's finished, I am okay, also my students. So and that is what self-care sometimes could look like for you as an educator. It doesn't have to be anything big.
Yes. And 3 tips from me, if you ask, for the teachers. Number 1, take care of your health. If you can go walk around in your own house, great. If you have a big terrace, walk there. Do a little bit of exercise. It's very important. Number 2, keep reading, good stuff. Stop this, avoid, there's a very important term called digital detox. We are very much involved with this technology based learning and activities, that all the time we are stuck to the phones and cameras and laptops. So once my job is done with the laptop or the mobile, just switch it off. Just close your eyes, rest a bit. Don't now start looking at your WhatsApp and Facebook and Insta. Just leave it. Okay, take a nap, or maybe just relax for a bit. And number 3, most important, if you feel low, don't hesitate to talk to somebody, talk to a counselor, or seek help. If you think the water is above the bridge, just seek for a help. There are so many beautiful wellness practitioners, and I'm sure somebody like Debbie would definitely help out. So I think number 3 is very important. If things are not in your control, pick up the phone and talk to someone who is an expert.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because a lot of people I hope they don't think so now, used to think that is a sign of weakness.
I was just writing that, Debbie. You're still in my thoughts.
They used to think that's a sign of weakness. And they also used to think in terms of, it means that, they're mad, and the stigma attached to it.
We have to break the stigma. We have to break the stigma.
Yeah.
Because the day I accept my weakness is the day when I will find my strength.
Exactly. That is so true. We need to break the cycle of thinking that going to a counselor, going to a therapist, that is because there's something so profoundly wrong with you. No, there's sometimes you're not able to navigate some of the basic things that you would be able to do naturally. But because you're under so much pressure, you have lost sight of direction. And we are human beings first, so these things do happen. One of the other things I want to say to educators as well, Once you finish with that classroom and that school, do not look at your email in your house.
Yes.
Do not look at your email in your house. Do not have your emails on your phone. Why do you want your school email on your phone? You don't need it on your phone. Your job is in that school. That's one of the reasons why educators are always like this, because they are constantly when they're not in the physical, when they're in the physical classroom, they feel the need to look at the emails. Educators who are teaching online, yes, you have to look at your emails, but you need to have a cutoff time. Your cutoff time should be your office hours, and any emails that comes after 5, whether or not that's the time you're looking at, you do not respond to it, because the more you respond to it, it shows
Yes.
that you are not demonstrating boundaries. You are saying that you could call me and communicate with me at any time, and then I would respond to any time. Educators, you need to start setting boundaries.
You have to
setting
define your
boundaries.
hours.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Alicia, can I have your 3 tips, please?
For educators?
Yes.
You stole one of them. So definitely what I've learned from personal experience is that ask for help, and it's a strength. So I've changed it now. Before, I used to think that asking for help showed that I was weak, but now I feel that it showed that I'm strong, because when I did ask for help, the support that I received just literally was overwhelming, and it changed my life. So definitely I agree with you both. Educators should ask for help. They should also put themselves first, because like you said, we are educators, and we put our heart and soul into the job, but we can only do that when we put ourselves first. So self-care is my new mantra. So self-care is not selfish. So this is my daily book, as I showed off before. Really proud of it. Simple, from the pound shop. Then I got the stickers. Again, they were like £2. Decorated it, and I only feel this with self-love. No negativity goes into this book. Only self-love. So self-care is not selfish. Asking for help is not is a sign of is a strength. And also, I would say just find a way to detox at the end of a day. So again, a digital detox I would definitely recommend, because I was that teacher that was always checking their emails, but now it's called a digital detox. I switch off my phone and I love it. We switch off all our devices, and we regularly have digital detox days. And for me, that's great, because it forces you to go back to basics. Because I was technology wasn't really a big thing when I was in school. So I'm so glad that it wasn't as well. I'm so glad that I'm not a child or a teenager right now. I feel sorry for them. My heart is bleeding for them, because I don't know how they're coping. Because I just know that even as an adult, if I was stuck at home with my parents right now, day in, day out, I would have lost it. So I don't know how these teenagers are doing it. I take my hat off to them. I wish there was more that we could be doing for them. But yeah, definitely do a digital detox. Just remember that, put yourself first, because you've got your family to worry about, your partner. You can't just be giving, because then you'll pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, exactly. When we talk about ask for help, the reason why I also see ask for help as being strong, it means that you are able to identify that you're not able to cope. So that is a strength, because you're able to identify that there is something wrong and you need external support. If you are not able to identify it, then there is a problem. The fact that you're able to identify there is a problem, I need help, I cannot cope, that is a strength. Okay. Well, is there anything else any of you want to say before we wrap up?
No, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. It was a great session.
Thank you. Right. What I always say, educators, you are doing a good job. You cannot do every single thing. You could only do some. And one of the greatest things you could do is hold space for yourself and for your students. That would also, in terms, reduce your anxiety, reduce your stress level, because you're actually holding space. And remember, the students are also very stressed. So by you actually taking that 10 minutes to unwind, to unload, to discuss, Through the discussion, you are also finding solution. Those things are so powerful. Even though you might use 10 minutes, you would gain more than 10 minutes, because it means that when you're ready to teach, the students are ready to learn because they've actually unloaded and their minds are now fresh and they're now alert. Instead of you actually having them, you going in the classroom and just teaching them and they're on the phone, and you're teaching them, they're on the phone. You need to just set time off and say, okay, what's happening? Because it could be cry for help, but they don't know how to ask for help. So all those signs, as educators, you need to tap into those signs of your students. Thank you. And don't forget, educators, you're doing a fantastic job, and start beating up yourself. Stop beating up on yourself. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, my panel members, for being here.
Wish you Christmas info coming, you know,
the next
in advance.
few weeks. Yes. Thank you. Good night, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you, Facebook panel. Facebook people for being on the panel, and I do appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys sometime next week.
Thank you.